Perfect. Yeah.
Hello, hello, blissful parents. Michelle Abraham, your host here today. I am really excited to bring you another fabulous guest. She is a parent herself and is also previously been a school teacher, which is fabulous. So lots of great knowledge here. Let me introduce you to Rachel Schindler. Hey, Rachel, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Well, let me tell our parents just a little bit more about you, Rachel, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a military spouse and a mom of two boys. You've received a degree in human development as an elementary school element as an elementary education license, and you used to teach grade 1 and grade 2 before staying home with your kids. She also attended a Montessori school and used that influence to raise her own kids. She loves anything crafty and loves do it yourself and as much as she can for her kids. So I love that about you, Rachel. You're also a dog mom as well. So we'll just throw that in there too. That is also awesome to hear. And I just love that we were going to dive into like how can we as parents kind of like bring Montessori kind of into our everyday life with our kids. And first of all, before we even dive in there, Rachel, can you just share for our parents maybe at home that have heard what Montessori is, but maybe aren't 100% sure what exactly it is and how they can incorporate it into their world?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I think one of the biggest principles of Montessori is the concept and the idea of following your child. That's really where Maria Montessori, who was the founder, started her schooling. And she really pushes towards watching your child, observing your child, and then doing things that you find kind of educating your child right where those interests are. They do a lot of focus on practical life activities, they're called in the Montessori world. And it's like, pouring their own milk into their bowl and putting on their own shoes. And then their other, like, really big side of it is prepared environment, they call. So setting up our environment for our kids so that they can be successful, whether it be, a little chair where they can sit down and put their shoes on all by themselves, or, offering their clothes laid out ready to go, but they have two choices kind of thing, especially on those busy school mornings, kind of like people get overwhelmed by Montessori because they think like, my kid's not going to do that. But, if you put your clothes out for your third grader, second grader, and, they can get dressed all by themselves, that's Montessori right there. Just kind of independence as much as you can, and not necessarily doing everything for our kids. I know we as moms kind of fall in that trap. I don't let my kid always pour their milk, but I do try.
Yeah, that's a little bit scary, the milk thing. But I can see like if you put it in a smaller container, then that's like more their size, and then it's just like the right amount for them rather than like gigantic with like 4 liter jug or the gallon jug that's gonna spill everywhere. That is setting yourself up for a disaster with a big one. But I can see how. What does it do for kids in your experience? Like, what have you seen that has really been really helpful for kids by following these kind of principles?
Yeah, I mean, especially my own kids, I think, a lot of times, mine are a little bit younger. So when we're observing things, sometimes I find, my 1-year-old, he just wants to put things in other things, right? That's like a big stage I think they go through. And so then I can offer him Tupperware containers and little treasures or animals he can put inside, and he'll sit there for an hour and a half, because I think I met him where he wants to be. So I'm sort of providing that education in his own way with his interests. And, as a school teacher, we did that a lot as well, kind of reaching that kid. If that child's super into Legos, maybe you do math with Legos. You really kind of get to their interest level and go from there. But then it also, like, it sets them up for success. When my 2-year-old can pour his own milk from the little container and make his own cereal, he feels so proud of himself. He knows I'm proud of him. And so it's really a good opportunity to kind of offer them that chance of, you will be successful and I'm here to back you, but you're going to do it by yourself.
I love that because they know that you're there for support, but those little wins, is that building up their self-esteem, their confidence, their feeling safe and secure, and that connection also with you as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, those are so great. What are some other examples of some things that you guys did in like the schools that really like fostered the Montessori?
Yeah, so when I was I taught mostly second grade, a little bit of first. And one of the big things that I pushed in my math classroom was the concept of math workshop. And it's a whole concept in itself, but the kind of the way that we did it, one of the stations that the kids went through was that they would do their own worksheet, and then they would go, and there would be, we called it a top secret, you know, option where it had all the answers. And so they got a chance to look at the answers and correct themselves. And I think this goes back to that Montessori of that prepared environment where I'm offering them, here's the answers, here's your chance to look at it yourself. They did turn it in, and I would kind of look over, okay, they missed a couple of these, so I need to know, like, that's where I'm going to take them. But giving them that prepared environment place to make their mistakes and correct them and learn all by themselves. So that was really important for them.
Ooh, I love that. My daughter came home this week and her teacher had taken them outside for math class, and they had done math by collecting sticks and rocks and like arranging them in different groupings and different, like, doing some things like that. I'm like, that's awesome because they're using the natural environment and they're outside getting some fresh air too.
It definitely makes it a little more exciting, a little more interesting too, which is always good when you're, going through school. So
Yeah, for sure. Now, I understand like the transitions, like getting kids out the door for school in the mornings. Now, not only in my own house, but in other houses, if we get through that without any like upsets or anyone, getting angry or anything, it's a huge win. So, are there some things that can help kids prepare for that like transition time that you found to be super helpful?
yeah, I think for me, definitely, my kids are younger, so they're not quite getting ready for school. My oldest does go a little bit. But one of the things is that concept of that prepared environment that we've been talking about. They have their little box, sort of, it's a little chest of drawers with their shoes in it. And they know, like, that's where their shoes are. And when I say, you need to go get ready, they go sit down. There's a little stool, and they put their own shoes on. And it sounds crazy, and it does take a lot of like pre-work in the beginning, right? I had to model how to do it. I had to show him how to do it a bunch of times. I had to help him do it a bunch of times. But now I can say to him, go get your shoes on, and he can do that. He knows exactly what that means. He can go to that spot. He has everything ready to go. Sometimes it is a little bit more work on my part to lay out his clothes or make sure his shoes are always in there. Sometimes they don't always make it back in. But in the end, it becomes quicker and easier and simpler for us to get out the door when that environment is ready for them to go.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, like if knowing, like for us, like we didn't have a specific place their backpacks always went. So for us, that caused a lot of chaos, I think, in our kids because they were like, well, where do these go? And then where do we find them in the morning to get them again? They didn't have like specific hooks that they went on. So we had to create somewhere for them to put those things so they felt like they kind of like it was more of a routine, I guess. Is routines part of the Montessori way of doing things too? Like, is that part of it? Like,
Yeah, it definitely is. I think one of the big pushes in Montessori is that child choice. So it's setting things up. They have there's a big concept of a Montessori shelf where you preset activities for your child. I rotate mine, so they rotate every week. We get a new shelf. The kids have new options for what's on there, but they're all kind of prepared and ready to go. So we do shelf work as part of our day, but then they get the choice of what you want to pick from here. So I would say, like, there's definitely routines, but a lot of it is pushing that more concept of like my child gets to choose kind of what goes in those routines.
that's great. I was just thinking as you were saying that, I'm like, that would have been such a great idea as my kids were younger to have less things out all the time and then like just a few things that I can choose from on an ongoing basis. Plus, probably would saved a lot of money on toys and all those other things. Too much stuff, right? And then I think that really affects their brains and their ability to like, pick something to do. And I noticed there were so many toys as we were growing out of stages and giving them away that like they hardly played with it all. It was just too many.
Yeah, we do what we call it toy rotation. It's kind of, I think, not as big in Montessori classrooms. That I might be wrong on that, but I know kind of in the Montessori home world, a lot of people do the toy rotations where we rotate out our shelves every week, or now I'm kind of at every 2 weeks. since we're just busy and they don't always have as much time at home as they need to work on it. So that has been probably my best parenting decision ever, ever, ever. We rotate the things that they loved forever, then go away, and then all of a sudden they come back out and they're super exciting and new. And I didn't have to buy anything to do that, so it's been
Yeah.
awesome.
That's really cool. My kids just got this box from someone as a gift, and it was a box full of just a few things in it. But the idea was that it was a Montessori box, and they take the box out. No, they're, most of our listeners know my kids are, grade 4 and grade 1 right now. So I mean, they're a little bit older, but they're these boxes were age appropriate for them. And it just had a few things in there that allowed them to get super creative and play. And there was one that had like rice in it, and the other one had some flowers and just some jewels and some things, so she could do some digging and hiding and all sorts of things. It kept them busy forever. And it was no like particular like outcome predetermined. It was really great. They could just sit there and play, use their imagination forever.
Yeah, that's definitely a big aspect. I would say, we're Montessori inspired home. We don't do all Montessori things. We do a little bit more like Waldorf style stuff, which tends to have a lot of that open ended materials, a lot of open ended things, for them to do. They don't necessarily have a purpose, but they kind of get to come up with their own purpose, which is cool.
Yeah, that's really great. It was neat to see them just be like focused on what they were doing there instead of like, like a game where someone was going to win, or like building the Legos that was had to turn into something. And, it was kind of a neat, it was great. It's great to see them be entertained by that and using their imagination again. I feel like their imagination gets lost in so many of the activities we have these days because they're yeah, and just their little brains are so scheduled to do things. So it's nice to give them that time off.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And your kids are older too, as you can see, like even though they're older, they still love that concept, right? It's still just as good.
Exactly. We actually, as an example of that too, we have this thing outside. It's like a culvert that like there's no water in it anymore. It's just all these rocky rocks and trees and bushes and things. And the kids love going there. They've called it Rocky Hollow, and they bring like a couple of like Lego guys, or they bring a couple of cars, and they've got this whole like city imagined in this little space, and it's really great. It's great to see their imaginations going. So I hear that you have got a great Instagram page, and so I'd love to chat with you about that and share with our listeners what it's all about, what you guys do over there, and where they can find out more information.
Yeah, so we run an Instagram page. It's been about, oh my gosh, about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, that we've started it. It's called Moose and Friends. We call my oldest son Moose. He was a preemie when he was born, and we only had a moose hat that fit him. So that's where he got the name. Um, and yeah, we share our Montessori inspired activities. We do a ton of DIY things. My husband is pretty good at woodworking. I've now learned to be pretty good also. And then I'm just super crafty in general. I love my Cricut. I call it my first baby. So there's a lot of good Cricut stuff on there for any of you who are out there and are good crafters. But yeah, we just share. We do a lot of sensory play as well. Like you were saying, kind of the rice and that kind of stuff goes in there. But yeah, we love it. It's been a blast. I've met amazing parents on there, amazing moms. We've connected with a few actually in real life, which has been super cool. But the community is just really, really great. I've really loved having it. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so, what's your hopes with that page, that you're inspiring some more families to?
Definitely. I think, we do a few collaborations with various companies, but I'm really picky on who I collaborate with because, one, I'm pretty picky on what comes into our house as far as toys or activities. And so I definitely do some vetting before I agree to collaborate with companies. But then, really, anything I share is something that we truly love. So we do that a little bit, but really, it's been able to just kind of go back and forth. I don't claim to be an expert on anything at all. So, parents will comment, well, my kid does this and what should I do? And I'm like, let's chat. Like, I have no idea. Let's figure it out together, kind of thing. So, oh, sorry.
That's okay. No worries. It's all about a parenting podcast. That's bound to happen. If it's not a dog, it's a kid or any of those other fun things. So it's all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
And for
yeah,
those
so
of you that are listening, Rachel's dog just came in and joined us on the episodes.
she's something else. We love her to pieces, but she will just bust in a room, doesn't care. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I know you're a busy mom. We'll let you get back to your busy momming. And thanks so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about Montessori style learning with our audience. I think it's going to be really helpful for our parents to kind of take a look at what we have already in our house. What can we use to inspire play and that learning that goes along with it too.
yeah, so thank you so much. It was a blast to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rachel. All right, blissful parents, go out there, have a fabulous day, and we'll see you again next week.